The King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast, where we dive deep into the media industry headlines and dissect the digital disruption that diverges the masses into the new media counterculture and away from the media establishment. Here is the King of Podcasts.
Welcome to the new year, and welcome to episode 260 of the Broadcasters Podcast. This episode celebrating the 5th anniversary of the program. Started this, I think it was January 4, 2018. I never thought I would get to this point where here we are. Made it all the way to this point. And I gotta say I'm impressed. I didn't think I would get to the 5th anniversary of the show so quickly, because it feels like it's only been yesterday. We did hundreds of interviews here on the program. I've talked about everything here with the digital disruption. We went through the pandemic together. And when you look at the landscape of media now, not so much where social media, where Facebook, Twitter, Instagram were in place, but with TikTok coming into play, forcing the likes of YouTube and Instagram and Facebook and Twitter all having to do things to push forward more real life, more real-time engagement and what they've been able to do. And where the way we look at watching content, it's no longer identified by just what we're watching on our television. I'm just thinking about just in this year. I can't tell you how many times I have turned on the TV in my bedroom. And I sit in here, during the day working on my full-time work, or I'm working on getting podcasts ready here. And sure, I could be multitasking, but honestly, maybe I've turned on the TV twice, and this is the last 5 days. I'm recording this January 5th, the night of January 5th. And I'll tell you, I think about where we look at what we're watching. When news is breaking, when things are happening, I'm reading TikTok. I'm following Twitter. I'm watching TikTok. I'm reading Twitter, and I am engaging in every different other area to see what's going on. And the way I go and look at things, like even when I want to look at live coverage of anything going on, I'll tell you like this. It's a spectator sport, and I don't want to get into politics. As I have said on this program plenty of times, this is an apolitical show. But I'll admit, anything that's political right now, the House Speaker vote has been going on for the last 3-4 days, whatever. And you know what? If I want to follow along and see what's happening, I'm not watching the cable. I'm not watching the local news about it. When all that's going on, I'm watching online. It's not even YouTube anymore, because YouTube doesn't even have to be the only place I watch. Everything I want to watch live, I can watch on social media. Watch it on TikTok. I can watch it somewhere else. And I do it all the time. And it's incredible how much we can get out of where our media is coming from. Because it's not just the normal places we go. If you want to watch something live, you don't have to. Or if something comes up and you want to learn about what happened, we don't even need instant replay on television. Because we get instant replay on social media. I can't tell you how many times, if I want to look for something going on, like if it's NBA, NFL, any sporting events, and I'm watching, I can see highlights, and I can catch highlights all day long if you're following the right places. For Twitter, you follow the teams you're following. You follow the NFL, NBA, the proprietary feeds for them. And I'll tell you, the social media people are working day and night and day. I mean, dare I say, social media content creators, they work harder hours over the holidays than the people in the major media does. The major media was going away for vacation. Meanwhile, people like me, we were just continuously cranking out content. Listen, I am on the Depraved and Debaucherous podcast. It's a mini podcast. It's like, 5 to 15 minutes long. And when I do the shows as well, I'll do like a half-hour show or something up to a half hour every Tuesday night going into Wednesday morning. And I kept that up, except for the fact, if it was not for me getting a flu a couple of weeks ago, right? If I didn't have the flu, I would have cranked out even more content. And then on top of that, I planned out many episodes of Depraved and Debaucherous to go into February. Okay, right now, I'm 4 weeks ahead. And I have a plethora of content ready to go ahead and record, put together, put on video, and all that. So any evergreen content, we have the time. Well, content creation can be done so simple right now and so clean. Because even for, audio or video, people got good cameras. People have good microphones. They're learning how to do it really effectively. It's the dynamic where, what legacy media does, what the movie theaters or Netflix or your streaming services or cable or broadcast TV, all of that, they give us more than enough information, more than enough. And then the commentary part, the second screen viewing part, right? The interaction part, that's social media. That's blogs. That's various websites. That's TikTok. So there's the part where we actually consume the content. But then if we want the reviews, we want the commentary, we want to get the backlash, the feedback, the instant reactions, that's social media. And in 2023, it's more than that, more than ever. Just think of a story that's going on now. On my TikTok feed, I see all the stuff about the politician stuff, right? And then this Monday, many of us were watching. We're just, you might have been watching the Monday Night Football game. Buffalo Bills, Cincinnati Bengals, with playoff implications. Both teams are at the top of their in the playoff run. And we were just expecting a really awesome Monday Night Football game. And then tragedy struck. Now, it looks like it's going to be a near tragedy. Happy to say that Buffalo Bills defensive back Damar Hamlin is continuously progressing now. At the latest information that I saw today, and we're only getting so many updates coming from the hospital. So you have to also dissect, decode, and filter out all the misinformation that still goes on out there. I'm not disputing that there isn't disinformation, but there's also the thought process where some people will call something disinformation when it's not. But we know there's also people that are just not getting everything accurate because they're not maybe defined in doing journalism, or they're doing it for an ulterior motive or for some really shady reasons. We'll just say it like that. And those kind of things you have to think about. It's very important to go and look at all that and see what we're getting from it. But it's more important, we're getting to see a lot more where we might get all the information that's going on within a story. But then you also have to remember, there's people that are going to have their opinions. They're going to have their conversations. But I'm also not going to listen to them. It's one thing to be said about when you find someone that gives you information. And this is the whole idea. If you're getting information on social media, like this story, you want to go to trusted people. Now, I don't necessarily mean they got to be trusted in terms of they have this certain, Ivy League pedigree, or that they have worked in business, whatever. If they just get information and they accurately disseminate information and they provide the information and it's accurate, it's above water, and they're consistently solid about that, then I'll tell you what, I'm going to trust that person, even if they're not even in the business. But if they have good commentary and their commentary is favorable and it is accurate, then I'm going to listen in and I'm going to follow. And I will trust said content creators out there when they're giving good information. And they're also not pulling any punches. No fluff. No, weaseling around, talking about topics. I like blunt, uncensored, raw, uncut. When I do this podcast, if I stop the recording at all, it's usually to go ahead and get rid of a coughing fit, or I'm just looking for the next story to bring up. Otherwise, I'm going straight through. And I also know, as a responsible podcaster, or as a responsible radio person, I learned from radio, number one, to also be cognizant and aware of what I say on the air or on the podcast. And then also realizing that whatever I say, whatever I post, I need to understand that I need to never put out anything that I need to apologize for. Which means I need to double check and make sure that what I say is accurate and trustworthy. because I don't want any pullback or anybody to go and come back to me and tell me that you're going to question something that I did, or I'm going to get criticized or canceled for it. Because other people understand that in cancel culture, that's one of the things that also has to happen too. There's a risk by being so blunt and honest that you can be susceptible to it. But there's also the part where if you're being blunt and honest and straightforward, but you're also not trying to offend, you're just trying to explain things as they are, then that's what I care about. Like, I don't worry about doing interviews like I do for Cannabis Radio. I host a couple shows there. I'm not asking gotcha questions, but I'm asking good questions. And I want to learn about what's going on. I'm aware of what's happening and what matters to me, right? So the latest right now on coming out of USA Today this morning, when they talked about it, that Bill's safety, I said defensive back, but his safety, Damar Hamlin's first thoughts after he woke up in the intensive care Wednesday night was to ask in writing who won the Monday night football game when he went into cardiac arrest. And upon waking up after being sedated, he followed commands and even was able to communicate in writing. He's still in critical condition with a breathing tube, according to doctors. But they made first public comments Thursday about his condition at a news conference at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. And Dr. Timothy Pritz, who's overseeing Damar, said the answer is yes, Damar, you won the game of life. So, thankfully, and hopefully, prayers, thoughts to Damar Hamlin, his family, the Buffalo Bills organization, and all those that are caring about him, friends, family. All we're hoping for right now is that he is going to continue the road to recovery. And who knows what the future holds for him. If there is any moment to where he recovers to the point where he would be able to get back on the field again. Maybe not to play again, but to contribute again. Maybe as a coach, maybe as a trainer, maybe something. I don't know. But what matters is that Damar Hamlin can come back out of that hospital and he can be able to function and he can be healthy and happy and be with his family and live his life. And we hope for the best because everything, all accounts has been even written about Damar Hamlin is that the guy is a quality guy, class act across the board. And it's what makes the story even much more telling and what made people emotional when they saw what happened. When you look at the faces of the players, like, let's get into the actual moment that happened. Because when we look at what happened that night, we're watching TV. And listen, probably about 20 million viewers were watching this game because it was a big deal. Now, I actually had partially was watching. I had not gotten into watching the game yet because it was just first quarter, but I didn't get a chance to flip over yet because I was watching, wrestling. As I do a wrestling podcast, so I was looking at the wrestling stuff because this is the first show of the new year. WrestleMania is coming. It's the WWE Monday Night Raw, so I was watching that. And I was going to eventually go ahead and put on my computer another screen so I can go ahead and watch the football game. But I didn't get a chance to get to that point yet. So I saw something come up. I don't know if it was on Twitter or what, but flipped to the game. And it was several minutes well after what happened in the play. And then I couldn't find the play, like what happened to him actually, to see what was going on the field with a big crowd of people surrounding this player who's, getting CPR and getting automatic defibrillation. So I didn't know what was going on. And I go to Twitter. And of course, some people were saying, don't put that video up there because some people were just saying, show the good part of Damar Hamlin. But for my own sake, I wanted to find out what it was. So somebody was passing around the video of what happened. So he tackles wide receiver T. Higgins after a play. And it just looked like, the receiver was wrapped up, brought down, looked like Damar Hamlin hit his shoulder, but he came down and he came right back up. He adjusted his helmet, and 2 seconds after that, he collapsed, fell straight down on his back. It was just like, wow. And everybody was just kind of like, what's going on here? But Bills, Bengals, organizations, the people, the medical team that was on site, sports medicine, the trainers, they responded immediately to the situation. They obviously had paramedics on site. They had medical care, whatever they needed, they could go and take care of, to the point there, they got him off the field. They got him to University of Cincinnati Medical Center. And from all accounts, the hospital is a very good hospital. And you see the players, as ESPN has to go ahead and work on the fly here, because it's like football game with all their coverage. And Joe Buck and Troy Aikman are trying to get us to go along. And hey, I'll tell you, Monday Night Football has been fantastic to watch this year. Joe Buck and Troy Aikman have really, it's a big difference when you have that quality of a commentating crew on ESPN now, because the games have been watched a lot more. It's better, and the games have been good. Like, they've had good games this year on Monday nights. But unfortunately, this situation here is dire. It's tragic, but hopefully nothing that would be totally tragic, which we were all hoping and praying would not be the case. At least we could say with more pause that, Damar Hamlin's going to make his way through. But as for the game, and as for the covering of this situation in real time, Joe Buck, Troy Aikman did the best they could with this. I would never want to be in their chairs having to cover this kind of thing. But they handled things as best they could. ESPN, they got the pictures of the players completely shooken and upset and mortified. Mortified at the reality that maybe one of their players just died on the field of play. One of their compadres, one of their brothers in arms. He might have lost his life there. Well, it looks like he won't. Knock on wood. So, with what happened, the media and what they handle with this, it is a real testament. It's a real example of what media in 2023 is today. Because you look at the full gamut, the full scope of how this gets brought out. You're watching ESPN, and then if you're hearing about it, the word gets across through various sources. Social media gets loaded up with it. The news networks don't get into it right away, but you start seeing the word get around quick. It only took me a couple of minutes to learn, I better put on the game. And we go. And then we're just watching. For about a good hour, I'm sitting there just like, what in the hell's going on? And ESPN, as they're still kind of like in a game delay, trying to figure out what's going on here with Damar Hamlin. Well, then we go into games postponed. And there's a lot of things that happened where people made comments that were ill-conceived, ill-thought of at the wrong moment, excuse me. We know that some people were talking about the hashtag diet suddenly. I'm not going to get into that. A lot of flack over Skip Bayless, who hosts Undisputed with Shannon Sharp over on Fox Sports 1. And the misconstruing of his comments, because people wanted to look at what he said on Twitter and talk about how the game should continue to be played, is that the NFL is going to do that because of the importance of the game and what the implications are for the NFL playoffs. Right. But he did try to say it all seems very irrelevant. But people missed that last sentence. And every time they kept showing Twitter, it's as if, there's a lot of people that didn't understand what he wrote. And so, big deal's made. Shannon Sharp doesn't show up for the next day for the show. Skip Bayless is on his own with the host. And Shannon comes back on next day. Again, that's just a kind of a construed theater over there on that show. Because there's this whole idea of, if you have... The thing is... Undisputed is kind of like the same idea as First Take on ESPN, which was also takeoff of what part of the eruption was on ESPN. And then the back forth, kind of the ha, that's like what Dan Le Batard brought over to ESPN. It's, somebody has like a gimmick. It's just like radio. People just copy a gimmick and just go with it. And if it gets people to watch, that's what's going on. But that's the next day. But what about the night of? Well, in the actual story of what happened here, you look at what's going on, and there's various issues of people talking about this. I took one story from Fortune, a professor, a professor of sports journalism, gave his commentary about what happened with the injury. And then there's another one that I saw from USA Today where they also talk about the injury. So there's a couple, there's obviously, if you go look around, there's a lot of places they're talking about this, but the media commentary from other people outside, the experts out there supposedly, that wanted to make their case about what they thought about what happened. Everybody said ESPN did the right thing. They did the best they could. And so this professor of sports journalism says that they could do the best they could with this horrific injury on Monday Night Football. So, matter of life or death. When we started getting that reality setting in, watching live, then everything changed. And ESPN's broadcasters and studio hosts were left to explain what was happening in real time. No information. Now, this professor of sports journalism explained that when crisis strikes sports, however, it's left to the media to report in, around, and through the moment. Some do it well and some fail miserably. But ESPN did a sound and responsible broadcaster during one of football's darkest on-field moments. Correct. And I want to praise ESPN because, you can crap on them because, some of the decisions, some of the things they do are a little bit questionable. Like the way they kind of handle, like the way they do hot live sports is one thing. Like all their studio shows, all their talk shows, I can't stand. I don't watch them. But their live on-air play-by-play stuff is good. It's always really solid. Now, so Troy Aikman, Joe Buck, sideline reporter was Lisa Salters, relaying the scene as it unfolds there. And they responded. Now, here's the one thing that this professor says that I really like what's being said. Instead of filling the live airtime with rambling commentary and sensationalism, this point needs to be taken in point here, okay? Because that's what the media, anything we're watching now, okay? Honestly, anything that's big media, legacy media, the large media, the mainstream counterculture that I always discuss, it is normally made to be something that we're watching where it's in your face, it's busy, it's loud, and sensationalistic. It's shocking. It creates an emotion. That's what a lot of media is trying to do right now. Whether it's shocking us or trying to sensationalize whatever kind of things, or trying to create some kind of message or narrative, something that's subtle, underlying. We get that all the time too. Or they're just trying to create something just to create shock value and awe because the audience is so desensitized to so much that we watch on TV. Whether it's streaming, whether it's whatever, that we need to have shock and awe in order to keep people interested because they have nothing else to do. That's what they're trying to talk about here. Instead, they make the point of saying that ESPN's commentators, Troy Aikman, Joe Buck, Lisa Salters, responded with compassion and care, avoided speculating Hamlin's condition, and ultimately appealed to the NFL to suspend the game, with Aikman asking, how do you as a member of the Buffalo Bills or Cincinnati Bengals continue to play football? Yeah, absolutely correct. Real professionals, experts. These guys, well, Joe Buck and Troy Aikman have been together, I want to say almost 20 years, or coming up to it if they haven't already. So they nailed it on the nose. NFL players in studio, Booger McFarland, Brian Clark, offers perspectives on what they might feel like to be a play on the field in that moment. And they reminded the audience that players are first and foremost people. McFarland acknowledging the inherent violence of the game. Quote, I think we reached a point where nobody's concerned about football anymore tonight. Correct. Clark, who was hospitalized for a splenic infarction in 2007, after playing a game with the Pittsburgh Steelers, acknowledged that part of living the NFL dream is putting your life at risk. He goes on to say that tonight we got to see a side of football that's extremely ugly, a side of football that no one ever wants to see and never wants to admit exists. And that was really the most part of what happened throughout the night. Now, the professor incorrectly refers to Skip Bayless as an ESPN commentator. He is a Fox Sports 1 commentator. Was ESPN. But besides that, interesting they talk about, like, when you think about sports and what tragedies we've had, one of the last things we probably did have, as a matter of fact, that was very tragic in sports, would be the 2020 death of Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna. It's probably a pretty good example. Talk about tragedy. Talk about everybody falling apart when it happened. It was a sad story. Not just for Kobe Bryant and the legacy that he has, but his poor, sweet daughter with so much life ahead of her. Like, that's just, it was, oh, man. And then when that happened, ABC News ultimately suspended a reporter saying on air that all 4 of Bryant's daughters were among the crash victims, and the BBC ran footage of LeBron James instead of Bryant. Trying to get to the story too early or too quick. Not getting all your facts straight. Let's just say that the media that we have today, the large end media, because of shock and awe value about being there first, they're careless, they can be reckless, and they can be irresponsible. Now, part of it will be because of the speed and because of the need to rush to get a story up and going. Sure. But you still have to be accurate. And you still need to do this correctly. But we still get a lot of things like this that happens. And can't be that way. Now, she goes on to say here that research has shown that the media is often responsible for modeling appropriate public spaces of emotion when traumatic or tragic events occur, be it respect for victims and their families or public mourning. But it can be argued that the media, especially in the digital age, and this is the other thing too, they're intimidated by the digital disruption. And you do understand that is what partially changed how media or how television is portrayed now. The internet. Ultimately, the digital disruption ultimately forced media, the mainstream the main culture. They were forced to step up their game because they felt like they needed to do things where they could keep up or stay ahead of their digital counterparts. And they did that, but they have hurt themselves in the long run. Just like a big corporate media. They're not paying attention to that. They're worried about the money that they're getting. So they got to be there first. They got to be there fast. To hell with accuracy and reporting. To hell with, compassion when it comes to the stories that are out there. Some people will do that. They do. So, in the digital age, they talk about that the media is a key conduit to community connection amid a tragedy when people seek to show their support and share their grief. Scott Van Pelt talked about, and that was after he finished up, once they tossed back to Scott Van Pelt because the game was postponed, they called it, and ESPN was no longer going to be covering the game from Paycor Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio. They sent it back to the SportsCenter host that would have been featured doing post-game coverage of the game after Scott Van Pelt. He says, sports is important. And suddenly it's not. Nicole Kraft, who's Associate Professor of Clinical Communication at The Ohio State University, she's the one that presented this, and this was published in Conversation. So yeah, there's that. And really, what a wonderful way to put it. More opinion on here. Chris Bumbach of USA Today talks about that. Journalists are not heroes, but ESPN had the vital role of being the primary source for updates as it broadcast the game. During the 65 minutes between Hamlin's collapse and the NFL's postponement, ESPN cut between a studio show and the game broadcast, and Joe Buck himself often relayed key information, including the controversial statement that teams had 5 minutes to warm up before the game would continue, and that sparked social media backlash. So, even as the story happened, the NFL itself, the feedback of the audience resonated quickly. Therefore, the game stopped. and at this point has still not been scheduled to be replayed or continued. It looks like it will not happen. They're just going to go without that game. And they'll figure out where the things go in terms of the playoffs, the Bills and the Bengals. From there, they might just make changes to the playoff setup for this year on the AFC side to add 8 teams in the playoffs as a make good for what happened here. The lack of available updates made the coverage reveal stagnant at points, but ESPN could not go to a 30 for 30 and tell everyone to check back later. Now, this opinion says they could have brought in more voices during the studio segment. No. You see, this media guy thinks you could have produced this better. No. There's only so much you can do here. And I think that Monday quarterbacking to take a pun, to think throwing in more voices. No, we didn't need more voices. People don't need to hear commentary about, what people feel about this. No. We're going to get that. People are going to get their chance to give their say about it. But at that moment, breaking news is happening. So let's see what's happening here. So we can get information about said player. That's what needed to happen. Now they move along and talk about that. Scott Van Pelt's tone never wavered and captured the moment. His shepherding kept the spotlight on Hamlin's health and siphoned in reaction across the league and the sports world. And they refer to his commentary with analyst Ryan Clark as succinct and powerful commentary. Closes out the story and says that the doctors and emergency medical personnel should be celebrated for their efforts to keep Damar Hamlin alive. What ESPN had to do pales in comparison, but it should not go unnoticed. A different perspective, okay. But for the most part, everything is in full perspective. And what happened to Damar Hamlin? I mean, we're still hearing from different doctors and experts as to what the whole situation entailed and how he was struck down so immediate in such a fashion. We've heard a lot of different cases as to why. But the most important thing is right now is, after the fact, to study this kind of injury to help to avoid this kind of injury, just like in the same case, the NFL always has to worry about CTE or concussions and the ramifications of that from players that have suffered many concussions and what they've gone through in terms of various issues, through pain, through trauma, to where some former players unfortunately have taken their lives succumbing to the pain and tragedy and trauma of CTE, to where we have concussion research out there to understand what's going on. And that the NFL has done the right thing so far to just not play the game, just leave it be, step away from it. Made sense to me on how they did that. So I commend the NFL for doing that too. Being a very long time football fan, I am glad they decided to go that route. 30-year football fan, I'm glad that was the route that it chose. So that story really did touch. What a testament. Now, we know that other voices were out there that commented about a whole story. I'm like, people can just say the same thing over and over. But like I said, at the end of the day, the only thing that matters to me is give me the updates from the hospital. Let the hospital come in, do the press conference, give us some good news. Let's hope there's no complications, no setbacks, and Damar Hamlin's going to make it out of that hospital healthy with all his faculties, and he'll be okay. We pray for him and make sure that will be the case. And that's all I want to talk about, the main portion of the program here when it comes to this story. There's other things I wanted to bring up that were just popping up on the program that I thought were very important. So I want to take a few things here and talk about that. So I'm going to go into a tangent here. We're going to go really off the deep end and go into a story that's nothing tragic about it, just very odd. So normally I do my Wrestling is Real podcast, which I celebrated my 10th anniversary of the program on December 18th and of last year. Well, Vince McMahon, who's best known for creating World Wrestling Entertainment, or WWE, there's a whole story right now in the media, and everybody picked it up. Vince McMahon is taking steps to return to WWE as executive chairman to oversee rights deals and a possible sale. So the wrestling community that I follow along with, they're all upset and all in a huff because they feel like Vince McMahon, who has been always solely responsible for the creative product, for the in-ring product, the television product that we've been watching for years, that he's kind of lost touch. He's 77 years old, I think it is. And with what he does now, it doesn't necessarily work well. Like what he's been doing lately, in terms of some of the decisions that were made, the wrestling community was very critical. Overly critical to a point. I will always say that. Always a little bit out of proportion sometimes. So, for those of you that listen to the wrestling program and you just happen to catch this show tonight, this is where I'm going to actually talk about this story instead of putting it out on TikTok or anywhere else. We'll just bring it up here. It fits the format. So, he's setting up the company's setting up a new round of broadcasting rights deals that he thinks should be in tandem with discussions of strategic alternatives, which can also include a sale of the company. Because they've been talking about the fact that the company could be sold. That maybe one of these big media conglomerates, whether it's Peacock or Fox or anybody else, might just want the intellectual property and just say, hey, we're just going to buy this off of you. Like right now, Fox already spends, they're spending what? In the last 4 years, they've been spending over half a billion dollars on WWE to put the Friday Night SmackDown show on their primetime lineup on Fox every Friday night. The USA has been spending about the same amount to have WWE's 3-hour primetime show, Monday Night Raw, on USA Network. And then Peacock is also, they've gotten the licensing rights to go ahead and they put a deal together so they could feature all of WWE's legacy programming on Peacock, on their Peacock service, including the premium live events, the pay-per-views. And so right now, 2024, the broadcasting deals will be up. And it's that time where these new deals need to be renewed. And for WWE to make sure they're going to continue to have the best possible deals as possible, Vince McMahon, in the negotiations, he's trying to be in that. Now, here's the thing I think about when it comes to this, is that Vince McMahon being a part of this, that while he might have broadcasting rights deals going on, I think one of the things that we notice as well, many times, we look at what Disney does, right? They own the proprietary of Disney, Star Wars, Marvel, right? Warner Brothers Discovery, they know all the properties when it comes to DC Comics, right? We look at all those kind of stories. And then you look at what's going on here and you say, okay, there are broadcasting rights deals that are out there, but then there's also the thing where if a particular media entity wants to just buy content and just own it, they can do that too. If you didn't know, it's not outside of the scope. Now, WWE is a publicly traded company, but they actually had an opponent. They actually had competition back into the 80s, 90s, up until 2001. They had a World Championship Wrestling, or WCW, and that was owned by a media company, Turner Broadcasting. And so that company was able to provide the television coverage for said show and provide the resources to be able to put up the show on pay-per-view and so many other things. That was intellectual property where they weren't buying time. They were not providing money and resources to have that company over there. It's just Ted Turner happened to have, it was his company, it was a media company, and he bought the company. He bought it from another promotion, which was buying out other promotions anyway and consolidating. And that was in 1989 that Ted Turner decided to take World Championship Wrestling and make it his own. And he did. He had already been offering this organization the way to go ahead and feature the programming because they had the outlet for television. And to continue it, when the company and the original ownership was falling apart and they had to go ahead and let the company go or fold, well, Ted Turner said, no, we're not going to lose that. We're going to buy it. He bought it at a low price, but he did. And so what's going on now is that McMahon can go and come in here, and where things are with these big, large media conglomerates now, especially when it comes to streaming, it's pretty commonplace, the idea that maybe WWE might just become the property of one of these streaming companies. Whichever one has the money and the wherewithal to go and buy it. So could Fox buy it? Could NBC Universal buy it? I'm sure there's some other suitors out there, but like, while the broadcasting rights deals are going into play, what I think Vince McMahon is believing is, he's not actively involved day to day. As we know, there was a scandal that happened over him, over sexual misconduct, and board investigation over payouts to women. The Wall Street Journal talked about it extensively last year, from the summer all the way to the late last year. And while Vince McMahon had not been charged, nor has been officially convicted, or has had to, be in a court of law to face charges, the only thing that would happen was, out of all the information that came out, was that the SEC was looking to go ahead and investigate. And once the SEC decided to intervene under his legal counsel, his advice of legal counsel and the board of directors, Vince McMahon decided to resign last year in July. And his son-in-law now has been running the company ever since in terms of the day-to-day creative product. Meanwhile, his daughter, or Paul Levesque's wife, Stephanie McMahon, has been a co-CEO alongside Nick Khan. And Nick Khan had been a long time, he's been a long time agent. It was a really big time sports agent, CAA, working in their sports division, representing major talent in sports, and also being very much responsible for helping to broker the deal for WWE to get the broadcasting rights like they did for their programs, their weekly programming, especially the one on Fox, which was a big deal. To get WWE programming back onto primetime was pretty spectacular. So now WWE is more or less, they've done what they could to continue to be very relevant. They have a very strong worldwide product, and at this point, would it be behooving to these media conglomerates to continue to just go ahead and buy the rights to carry the shows? Or would it just be a better interest for them, if they're going to spend that much money, to just buy them out? And that's what I think Vince McMahon's here for. For those wrestling fans that think that he's here to go ahead and come back in and start taking over, no. He's a majority shareholder of the major stocks in the company, 50.1%, regardless if he's not on the board. But the plan is he wants to go ahead and he still has voting power, and he wants to plan to elect himself as well as two other allies to the board. They're former co-presidents before Nick Khan came on board, former co-presidents and directors Michelle Wilson and George Barrios. And they would remove 3 directors on the board of directors to make room. The programming is up for renewal soon. And also, I forgot, there's also NXT, which is their developmental program, that's also airing on USA Network every Tuesday. So all those deals are coming in, and the strategic thinking is about a larger merger M&A transaction. Instead of spending $600 to $700 million in WWE rights, a partner might be more interested in buying the company outright. That's what I said. And here's what they're trying to say: that Peacock parent Comcast is the most actively rumored as a potential buyer. Possible sale buoyed WWE shares in 2022, and it's a digestible size, market cap of just under $5.4 billion. By the way, when Vince McMahon, this announcement was made on a press release, after hours trading at WWE went up 11%. He already calls his current management team exceptional and, quote, "I do not intend for my return to have any impact on their roles, duties, or responsibilities." So I honestly agree. The fact that what they're trying to do is that Vince McMahon is just looking for the future of the company, where it's like, listen, it's his stake. And that his team there, including Nick Khan, I think very much is expressing the idea that just like I said in this deadline story. So for the wrestling audience that's out there, I'm going to just repeat this again because I think what they're saying is, what Deadline right now is saying is exactly right. I'm going to read this paragraph one more time. The strategic thinking about a larger merger and acquisitions transaction is that instead of spending $600 to $700 million in WWE rights, I always say it too fast, a partner might be more interested in buying the company outright. And if that's the case, that's when you're going to want to bring the guy that created the whole dance, Vince McMahon, to come on board and handle it. That's exactly what they're trying to say. And I think that's exactly what he's going to do. So for my wrestling audience, if they think it's going to be anything more involved, no. Absolutely not. I don't think I'm going to eat my words. But if I do, I will apologize and I will make my correction made. Not a problem. I will do it if I have to. But either way, I don't think it's going to be the case. There's a few other stories I want to bring up here. And you know what? I'm going to hold on. There's a bunch of stuff on radio and podcasting, but I don't want to go right into that. I'm going to hold that off until next week. Give you just a quick preview. Songwriters' new streaming royalties are approved before the new year, according to the Billboard. A couple of commentaries on the podcasting industry, where it could be, because it looks like it'll be a rough year, they're saying. Analysts, there's radio FCC by the FCC numbers, where radio is today, who owns it, and how big is it? And the format report card. What music formats in radio are doing well and which ones are not. So I'm going to go ahead and table those stories for next week, because news is still kind of coming in kind of slow. So I'd like to get a few more things to talk about and table it into next week, so I can make sure I give you more than enough content for the Broadcasters Podcast next week. So we'll come back and we'll talk all about that and more that's coming on up. And until next week, remember that content is king, and the control of your content is in your hands.
Thank you for listening to the Broadcasters Podcast. Find all the links to subscribe to the show by going to broadcasterspodcast.com. And don't forget to check out the King of Podcasts wrestling program, the Wrestling is Real podcast, exclusively at wrestlingisreal.com.